What's up, everyone? It's been a few days since I posted here on this channel. Tears of the Kingdom came out, and I wanted to spend a few days playing that to kind of formulate some early thoughts and first impressions for you guys. The first thing I wanted to mention in this first impressions video is the first cutscene. It immediately grabs your attention. It's a great hook for the game, and it makes you immediately curious as to what's happening. There's some voice acting that's awesome, and a character that starts speaking that you don't expect to start speaking, and it's very eerie, very scary, and immediately makes you want to know more about the story and what's happening. The next thing we'll talk about is the map. Now, a lot of the criticisms leveled at Tears of the Kingdom during the build-up and during the release of the trailers was that it was going to be the same map as Breath of the Wild, and so it wasn't going to feel fresh or new, and how could they use the same map with the same assets and have it feel like a new game. But I think Nintendo did the best job they possibly could. Obviously, the terrain's going to look familiar if you've played lots of Breath of the Wild. And, it's a direct sequel, so, I can't really speak to them maybe using a different map because, as in my mind, a direct sequel, you kind of have to use the same map, especially in a world as vast and large as Hyrule's. And I feel like they really took the map and expanded on it. The map feels fresh. There's so many new sky islands, sky rocks that have fallen. There's new enemy encampments. None of the Zonai shrines are going to be in the same location as Sheikah shrines. There's more towers to unlock in this game. And overall, riding on horseback or exploring the world, honestly, it feels like a new world. And there were some times where there were so many new things around me that I had to be like, do I actually know where I am in Hyrule right now? And obviously that awareness goes up as you unlock more towers. But it honestly feels really fresh and new. And I feel like Nintendo did an awesome job of keeping the map the same, but also freshening it up. In addition to the map feeling really fresh and new, even though it's the same overworld map, there are also two other components to the map. So first, obviously, is the Sky Islands, which were featured heavily in the promotional material leading up to the release. While there aren't Sky Islands covering the entirety of the overworld map, I think there's enough Sky Islands and enough configurations to keep you busy for a while, exploring all of them, and making vehicles to traverse from one island to the other or finding different ways to get to the islands has been one of the highlights of the game for me. Not only have they added map above the overworld, but they've also added map below. So I don't know how Nintendo hid this from all the leakers and stuff, but there's a huge underground area. Spoilers incoming, so if you don't want to hear this, skip ahead. There's this huge underground area called the Depths, and it's as large as Hyrule is. So having this area that feels dangerous, it feels like hard mode for Tears of the Kingdom, but having this whole other area the size of the map, they've pretty much doubled the map, which is incredible that they didn't make that a bigger thing in the trailers. The map feels genuinely huge. It feels insurmountable to explore it all. I don't know if I will ever explore the entire underground area or even the overworld area. Now, the next thing I'll cover is story. I know people tended to criticize Breath of the Wild for the lack of story. Not that there wasn't a lack of story. You unlock memories throughout Breath of the Wild. But I think more of the issue was with how it was presented as flashbacks instead of a present story. Tears of the Kingdom so far, to me, has an incredible story. There's a few twists that you wouldn't guess. After the release of the third trailer, there was so much speculation about the story, but it even is exceeding what I had assumed the story to be. The story so far is interesting. There's a few twists and turns. Obviously, I haven't finished the game, so I haven't unlocked the whole story. Now, just like Breath of the Wild, there are flashbacks, but overall, I think the story is much improved from Breath of the Wild. I am really enjoying how the flashbacks tie into what's happening currently as you play through the game. But yeah, honestly, I'm really impressed with the story and really excited to see how it turns out. I wanted to touch quickly on some of the new abilities. Your four main Sheikah abilities, Bombs, Cryonis, Magnesis, and Stasis, are gone from Breath of the Wild. You no longer have those abilities, and because of that, it really changes how you play the game. You can't cross a river with Cryonis any longer. You can't freeze things with Stasis. You can't just blow up boxes or fight Keese or low-level bokoblins with bombs anymore, and limitless bombs like you had in Breath of the Wild. So it changes the way you play pretty significantly. The first ability I wanted to touch on is Fuse. Without being too spoilery, most of the in-game weapons are not as good as they were in Breath of the Wild. And so really it makes you it really puts a huge emphasis on the fusing ability. So you're constantly killing enemies, getting their loot, and fusing what they've dropped to sticks or other weapons that aren't as good. And so really you're not going to be finding, complete Knight's broadswords or Knight's claymores in the game anymore. Really, it's a big focus on making your own weapons. I'm enjoying the fuse more than the weapons in Breath of the Wild, because in Breath of the Wild, there's really no motivation to go kill a monster. You're just like, oh no, it's going to take some of my weapon durability. But in this one, there's so much more incentive to go out and fight stronger enemies, because the loot that they drop, their horns and teeth, is going to be really useful to fuse with sticks and swords that you find, and making really powerful weapons along the way. The other ability I wanted to touch on is Ultra Hand. I know a lot of people were worried that building things was going to be just this huge, inescapable part of the game. Unless you're in a Sky Island scenario, trying to progress from island to island, I haven't really done that much building with Ultra Hand on the ground level of Hyrule. So it is an important part of the game as far as the Sky Islands go, but it's not this huge overarching, and if you don't like it, you're not going to have to use it that much. Personally, I think embracing Ultra Hand and the ability to create these crazy vehicles is going to enhance your experience with the game. So I'd recommend kind of getting into Ultra Hand and learning about the things you can build. I know I've had some moments of just uncontrollable laughter because of a vehicle I'd made and something going wrong with it, and it's sliding all the way down the hill, even though I tried to catch up in vain. So it's honestly been really fun to build things. If you guys remember the old mobile game Bad Piggies, part of the Angry Birds franchise, it kind of feels like Zelda mixed with Bad Piggies. And I really enjoyed Bad Piggies, so building vehicles is really enjoyable for me using Ultra Hand. Another thing I wanted to cover in this video is enemy variety. So I know in Breath of the Wild there were Lizalfos, Bokoblins, Moblins, Lynels, and of course Guardians. So in this one there's a lot more enemy variety. There are Zonai constructs that you might have seen in the gameplay video with Mr. Aonuma. Obviously Bokoblins, Moblins, Lizalfos, Lynels are back, but now they have different horns on their head depending on which type of monster and how, whether they're red, blue, black, silver, that kind of thing. There are also new boss Bokoblins, and they're basically upscaled Bokoblins. I would say about a third of the size of Hinox's, and they kind of lead a group of 4 to 5 Bokoblins. And so fighting those can be a real challenge sometimes, because you're having 5 Bokoblins fighting you, but then also this huge boss Bokoblin with a huge sword that he's trying to get you with. I would say I'm really enjoying the boss Bokoblins. And there are also Gleeoks. I think I've seen a Flame Gleeok and a Freeze Gleeok, although I've not been brave enough to go fight them. I haven't encountered a Lynel yet. There is a really freaky enemy that early game can kind of destroy you that I ran into. And if you've been following along on, Reddit or YouTube, you might know what those things are. I won't spoil it for you. But suffice it to say, they're even more scary than Guardians, and I feared for my life, honestly. I'm still terrified of running into that certain enemy. So I would say enemy variety has greatly improved. There are likes, kind of hanging worm things in caves that'll get you. There's a new enemy type, a Horriblin, kind of like a Bokoblin that lives on the ceiling and comes down and gets you. So yeah, I'd say enemy variety, if you're looking for more enemies in Breath of the Wild, then this is going to really make you happy. Now, the game really is massive. I'm about 22 hours into the game, and honestly, the sheer amount of things to do and side quests is pretty unbelievable. Even compared to Breath of the Wild, where there's endless exploration, this game takes that to a whole new level. It's easily a 50 to 100 hour game for someone like me who's likes exploring and stuff, and even somebody who's really intent on finishing the game. I've had where I've been like, I'm going to do this quest, but then I get sidetracked for 3 hours doing other things that I find along the way. So it's that kind of game where you have an objective in mind, but the world is just so immense and there's so many things to do, you're just going to be swept away exploring Hyrule. So those are my first impressions of Tears of the Kingdom. It's been a fantastic experience so far. I hope that if you purchase the game and are playing it alongside with me, you're having just as much fun as I am. Thank you so much for watching.